morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you may be. My name is Olu. So, the social media debate continues in Nigeria, and this time around, a very interesting personality has come forward to add his own contribution to what he perceives as the menace of social media in Nigeria now. Social media is an alternative to traditional media. And in Nigeria, even though Nigeria is a democracy, and Nigeria has even had a sort of long history of a relatively free press, I would say. However, with the return to civilian rule in 1999, what has happened is that the press has gradually been circumvented, as in the traditional press, which is the print and the electronic press, has gradually been circumvented, and more or less, the level of independence that you would expect from the traditional press seems to be sort of diminishing by the day. And then along the line, you now have the social media sort of bridging the gap that has been created by the traditional media. Now, one of the challenges that has been brought to the forefront through the social media in Nigeria of late has been the menace of herders. These are herdsmen who, some of them will say they're sort of cattle rearers, rearing cattle and all that. But significantly over the past few years, most of these cattle rearers or herders have been involved in what has been termed as ethnic cleansing, whereby communities have been ravaged, farmlands plundered, people unalived, in the name of people, these people grazing. And one interesting bit to this narrative is the fact that most of these herders are of Fulani extraction. So it's probably not surprising that the Sultan of Sokoto, who is a Fulani man, felt so strongly that the social media to him has become more of a terrorist organization. So the question is, why would he say that the social media is a terrorist organization? Why? Is it because it has? Is it because the social media sort of says things that the traditional media finds it difficult to say? Is it because the social media is quite critical of the atrocities, committed by these herdsmen who happen to be of Fulani extraction? Because the reality is that in the northern part of the country, there's been systematic ethnic cleansing. That has been terrible. It's been really on for years now, whereby communities are plundered, houses burned down, people unalived, and all that. And in the southern part of the country, there's been instances of kidnapping, which are also linked to this time around bandits who happen to be of Fulani extraction. So if the social media is saying that, okay, there is a problem here, we have a problem here, and this problem needs to be looked into, why should that unsettle someone who should be seen as an important opinion molder? Okay, now in his position as the paramount ruler, a very important paramount ruler in the northern part of the country, and also a very important religious leader, you would expect him to be mindful of what he's saying and how he says it. Now, if he finds it difficult to be critical of the activities of these herdsmen, which he has been very quiet. I mean, especially when there's been killings, unaliving rather, where there have been unaliving all over the place. He has been rather silent. He's been silent, and when people are through the social media are saying, okay, telling the government to act and sort of deal with this menace, well, to him, he thinks that these people are constituting themselves into terrorism, which is, of course, absurd. So it's important as a leader, you'll expect him to be objective, you'll expect him to be honest, rather than, being economical with the truth. And at the end of the day, if we're saying we want to build a country, as in if we're saying as citizens of Nigeria, if we're all sort of saying, oh, we want to build a country whereby each citizen is equal before the law, whereby every person is equal before the law, and whereby one group is not more superior to another, if that is the type of society that we're aiming to build, then it's important for this gentleman to be mindful of what he says. And if he hasn't got anything objective to say, it's better for him just to sort of keep quiet, respectfully, because it's just so absurd. Whereby, if citizens are each citizens are using that outlet, which happens to be the only outlet they can use to sort of say, okay, we have a problem here, and hopefully we should have a solution, and sort of projecting that forward. And if the political elite seem to be dragging their feet, and if the government comes across as being incompetent in this area, then it's up to citizens to at least hear their views, provide a level of sensitization, so that ultimately gradual solutions can be found. But a situation whereby someone of influence, someone of who owns substantial clout, is using his office in a way that is just questionable, then that is so unfortunate. So that's just my take. Once again, I want to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Thank you.